These men found the secret bunker of the Nazi army in World War II, and you won't believe what happened next. Amidst the sand dunes on the west coast of Denmark, an accidental discovery revealed something shocking that left historians and curious people around the world speechless. If you're curious, join us and let's go. Number 14. The submarine fortress of La Rochelle. First, let's go to the French coast, where there's a bunker so impressive that it's been turned into a Hollywood movie set, the La Rochelle submarine base. In 2017, divers found a part of the complex that no one knew about, hidden underwater. It's like an underwater city that served as a base for German submarines. The roof is so thick that it withstood more than 50 heavy bombings without even cracking. Inside, they discovered a secret workshop where the Germans developed revolutionary technologies for submarines. There were even prototypes of electric motors that were only officially invented decades later. The most incredible thing is that they found a dry dock system that could hide 20 submarines at the same time, with an ingenious mechanism that used seawater itself to generate electricity. Number 13. The horror of Auschwitz. In January 1945, soldiers of the Soviet Army's 322nd Rifle Division were marching through the snow when they came across something that would change their lives forever. What they found left even the most hardened veterans speechless. Some 7,000 prisoners who were so frail they barely looked human. Most of them, middle-aged people and teenagers who didn't even have driver's licenses. But the nightmare was just beginning. In their inventory of the horror, they found 600 lifeless bodies, 370,000 men's suits, 83,700 women's clothes, and, brace yourself, 7 tons of human hair. Before the Soviets arrived, the Nazis had forced 60,000 prisoners on a death march. Just imagine, starving people, walking in the freezing cold, with soldiers shooting at those who couldn't keep going. Even General Vasily Petrenko, a tough guy who had seen it all in the war, was shocked. He said he had never seen so much hatred as the Nazis showed towards those people who looked more like living skeletons than people. Number 12. The discovery that became world news. It was a quiet spring afternoon when 2 9-year-old boys were playing in the sand on the west coast of Denmark, near Hovig. Like any curious child, they loved digging holes and searching for lost treasures on the beach. Then something incredible happened. An old bucket began to appear among the dunes. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. As they dug deeper, they realized that something much bigger was hidden there. Tommy Casso, a local electrician who loved history, was called in to take a look. When he arrived at the site, he could hardly believe his eyes. The entrance to a perfectly preserved Nazi bunker. The news spread like wildfire, and soon journalists from all over the world were descending on the small coastal town. Inside the bunkers, it was as if time had stopped in 1945. Just imagine opening the door and finding everything exactly as the soldiers had left it more than 60 years ago. The beds were still made, with blankets folded as if someone was going to sleep there that night. On the shelves, rows of rusty food cans shared space with empty German beer bottles. The most impressive were the personal objects: combs with strands of hair in them, half-finished letters, family photos, and even an unfinished diary. On a table, a card game seemed to have been interrupted in the middle of a game. The walls still had calendars from 1945, with some days marked for events that never happened. In a closed closet, they found hanging uniforms, lined-up boots, and even a collection of postage stamps with Hitler's face on them, which were never used. I have a question for you. First, I'd like to tell you that it's possible to keep up with the biggest curiosities of our world every day. But for that, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So, have you subscribed yet? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Now that you've done that, let's go. Number 11. Nazi medical experiments. In the bunker's medical wing, the researchers were astounded by what they found. The shelves still held dozens of vials of medicine, including treatments for mustard gas, one of the war's most terrifying weapons. In a locked drawer, they discovered a notebook with detailed notes on medical experiments. The supply closet was filled with original bandages from the era, still in their packaging, along with surgical instruments that looked like they had never been used. The most chilling thing? A collection of gas masks hung in a row on the wall, as if ready to be used at a moment's notice. In one corner, a makeshift stretcher still bore stains of dried blood, telling the silent stories of wounded soldiers who had passed through it. They even found a supply of morphine from the era, carefully catalogued in small wooden boxes, showing how Nazi doctors prepared for the worst. Number 10. The Mittelbau Dora Death Camp. On April 11, 1945, American soldiers from the 3rd Armored Division were advancing through central Germany when they came across something that no one was prepared for. Near the town of Nordhausen, they found the Mittelbau Dora concentration camp. But it wasn't just any camp. It was an underground factory for V-2 rockets. They found 250 prisoners, more dead than alive, abandoned by SS guards who fled with their tails between their legs. The poor guys worked up to 14 hours a day, making those rockets in tunnels that didn't even have proper air. Of the 60,000 people who passed through there, 20,000 didn't survive. It was so absurd that the soldiers, accustomed to the horrors of war, were speechless. They immediately dropped their weapons and became a rescue team, rushing to save whoever was still savable. Number 9. The discovery of the Wolf's Den. In another corner of Europe, in Poland, the story was even darker. The Wolfschanze, or Wolf's Lair, Hitler's secret headquarters, held even more disturbing secrets. Built in 1941, this giant fortress was hidden in the Murren forest, near a small town called Gierloss. After the war, the place became a death trap. More than 54,000 landmines were scattered throughout the area. The Polish government had to do a huge job of cleaning it up. In 2024, archaeologists found 5 skeletons under the former bedroom of Hermann Göring, one of the leaders of the Nazi regime. They were 3 adults, a teenager, and, imagine that, a baby. The mystery grew when they saw that none of the bodies had hands or feet, and next to each one was a strange stone in the shape of a lightning bolt. The strangest thing is that these same types of fossils have been found in other places important to the Nazis. In a diary found near the bodies, there were drawings of these stones and symbols that no one has been able to decipher to this day. Analysis showed that the fossils all came from the same place, a specific region of Germany. Nowadays, these places have become super popular tourist attractions. The Wolf's Den receives more than 300,000 visitors per year. Number 8. The Nazi Battery. In 2004, a British military historian named Gary Stern got lucky when he got his hands on an old World War II map. It wasn't just any map. It marked a spot near Grand Camp Mazy in Normandy as a high-resistance area. Stern was incredibly curious and went to check it out. What did he find? A major archaeological find. Hidden under a bunch of weeds was Battery Mazy, a giant German artillery complex that everyone had forgotten about. Stern was so excited that he bought the land on the spot and started digging. And look what he found there. A huge network of bunkers, cannon emplacements, and over 2 kilometers of trenches. The coolest part? They even found an underground hospital, complete with medicine and equipment from the time. Battery Mazy was super important during D-Day on June 6, 1944, but after the war, everyone forgot where it was. Now the place has become a museum, and you can walk through the trenches like a soldier. Number 7. The Riese Project. Imagine an entire city hidden beneath mountains. That's what the Nazis tried to do in Poland between 1943 and 1945. Project Riese, which means giant in German, was a network of 7 underground complexes that to this day no one really knows what they were used for. Some say it was supposed to be Hitler's secret headquarters, while others think it was supposed to manufacture advanced technology weapons. The most impressive thing? The size of the project. They dug huge tunnels beneath Książ Castle in the Owl Mountains. But this story has a dark side. The people who built it all were prisoners of war and people from concentration camps. Many people died there, working in inhumane conditions. Today, you can visit the Osówka complex, known as the Underground City. The guides tell chilling stories about the place, and when you walk through those cold corridors, you can feel the weight of history on every wall. Number 6. Eagle's Nest Alpine Refuge. At the top of the German Alps, there is a bunker that everyone knows as the Eagle's Nest. In 2020, a team using 3D scanners discovered a network of secret tunnels that no one knew existed. The place was already famous for being one of Hitler's favorite hiding places, but the new tunnels revealed a much larger and more complex structure. They found an alternative command room, fully equipped with cutting-edge technology for the time, and an elevator system that worked even if the bunker was bombed. The most incredible thing is the heating system. It used the natural heat of the mountain to keep the place warm, even with snow outside. In the new tunnels, They even found a secret wine cellar with very rare wines and an air purification system that was decades ahead of its time. Number 5. The Hamburg Submarine Bunker. Imagine finding 3 Nazi submarines under a parking lot. That's exactly what happened in Hamburg in the 1980s. The submarines U-2505, U-3505, and U-304 were hidden inside the Elbe II bunker, a giant fortress that the Germans built to protect their submarine fleet from Allied bombings. The bunker was located on the banks of the Elbe River and was a kind of high-tech hideout where the Germans could build and repair their submarines away from enemy eyes. At the end of the war, in 1945, the place became a shelter for submarines escaping the bombs. But then a heavy bombing on April 8th collapsed part of the roof, trapping the submarines inside forever. After the war, no one really knew what to do with that concrete monster. The solution? They filled it all with gravel and concrete and built a parking lot on top. It wasn't until the 1980s that some curious researchers discovered this crazy story. Number 4. Blockhouse. Near Saint-Omer in France, there is a place that looks like something out of a science fiction movie. The Blockhouse. Built between March and September 1943, this concrete monster had a very suggestive code name, Kraftwerk Nordwest, or Northwest Power Plant, if you prefer something less sinister. And with good reason. The place was designed to be like a shopping mall for V2 missiles, except instead of shopping, the plan was to send 100 rockets a day to London. The numbers are enough to make anyone's jaw drop. They used 200,000 tons of concrete and 20,000 tons of steel in the construction. It even had a bomb-proof train station to receive the missiles directly from Germany. But then the French resistance found out about everything and handed the gold to the British. The RAF wasted no time and began Operation Crossbow, bombing the place without mercy. Nowadays, this concrete giant has become a museum, telling a story that many people would rather forget. Number 3. La Coupole. In France, there's a bunker that looks like something out of a science fiction movie. La Coupole, built between 1943 and 1944, was the Nazis' secret base for launching V2 rockets at London. The Germans chose Saint-Omer with great care. It was right next to the English Channel and had railways right outside to deliver the rockets. But do you know what's funny? They never managed to launch anything from there. The Allies bombed the place so much that the plans fell through. After the war, the bunker remained there, abandoned, until someone had a brilliant idea to transform that wartime junk into a super modern museum. Since 1997, the place has been telling the story of the German occupation and rocket technology. In 2012, they even added a 3D planetarium inside. Now you can learn about wartime rockets and then travel through space, all under a giant 77-meter-wide dome. It's like traveling back in time with a trip to the stars. Number 2. The Tot Battery. In September 1944, when the war was almost over, the Allies stumbled upon a concrete monster on the French coast. Battery Tot. Imagine a place with 4 giant bunkers, each with a 380mm naval gun that could send shells flying 55 kilometers all the way to the coast of England. The Canadians of the 3rd Infantry Division were tasked with taking that fortress. And no wonder. Those cannons were so big that you could see them across the English Channel on a clear day. The guys from northern Nova Scotia, a group of tough soldiers, named the mission Operation Undergo. It sounds like a name from a reality show, but it was serious business. The most incredible thing? Those cannons were so heavy that special cranes were needed just to move them. The Germans were so afraid of losing the battery that they built a crazy defense system, with smaller bunkers protecting the larger ones. Number 1. The Jersey Underground Hospital. During World War II, the Germans turned Jersey into a real underground fortress. The highlight? A network of tunnels called Ho-8, which became the German Underground Hospital. But don't think it was easy to build. The engineers drilled through mountains of loose shale, risking collapse with each explosion. The hospital was high-tech for the time. 500 beds, air conditioning, heating, and even a full operating room. The craziest detail? It was never used as a real hospital. After Jersey was liberated on May 9, 1945, the tunnels were abandoned until someone had the brilliant idea of turning the whole thing into a museum. Today, the Jersey War tunnels are like a time machine. You enter and go straight back to the time of the occupation. The exhibits are so realistic that you can feel the weight of history in every corridor. And to think that all of this was built by forced laborers who spent 12 hours a day digging in the dark. Now I have a question for you. What if you knew what the most frightening discoveries made recently from World War II were? I'm going to show you a video about these macabre discoveries now on the screen. So take advantage of it now and watch it. Well, that's it, and until next time, Curious One.